Critical Role drops a potential bombshell about the nature of Ahriman in their return to Campaign 4. The Forgotten Realms creator warns DMs not to follow in his footsteps, and an update on the long-awaited 6th Game of Thrones novel.
Never going to happen.
Before we dive into huge Critical Role reveals and DM advice, why not take a second to hit those like and subscribe buttons? It's fast, it's free, and it really does help us cut through all that AI slop. And then, let's dive into the news. Critical Role returned from their holiday hiatus with a bang, with all 3 tables getting some time in the spotlight in the latest episode. And while the Schemers table did reinforce the idea in our video yesterday that Hal is and probably has been some form of spymaster or behind-the-scenes power for his brother's rebellion, he talks about having sources already inside noble houses and knowing which Taconis family member has a wife prone to extreme gossip before everyone sort of follows his lead in the meeting to basically begin the true formation of a rebellion inside Dol Makyar. It was something that Brennan mentioned when we returned to the soldiers table that really has the potential to blow some fans' minds. When talking about the knife that Tyranny stole from Ulbid after Tyranny and Cadigan discuss it in a heart-to-heart towards the end of the episode, Brennan casually slips in that the knife has some kind of strange power to it, saying that, quote, it could have been considered a vestige of divergence, which raises the possibility that while Ahriman and Exandria are separate, they may in fact share a universe. Even in the cooldown after, Brennan kind of left that possibility open, that Exandria and Ahriman may in some way be linked. And if so, that opens up a lot of potentially crazy doors down the line in terms of characters and stories that could in theory make their way to Ahriman. Now, it may also have simply been a way of describing the knife to the players, but given that Robbie and Whitney were the two discussing it, and neither were very familiar or familiar at all with the vestiges that played much bigger roles in the campaigns that predated their time with Critical Role, it was a very interesting possibility indeed, and Brennan rarely drops these little hints for no reason. So could more elements of Exandria come leaking into Ahriman? We'll have to wait and see as the soldiers table, perhaps in a bit of a foolish decision given all the other outs that Brennan gave them, like returning to the hospital, talking to the Lux, or following the hounds to the Druids, decided to head back to Dol Makyar and risk everything to treat the petrification of Teor's brother in a city they had fled after they were made by the Sundered Houses. Oh, and speaking of Teor, Teor is a star-powered lion man who comes from a lineage that may predate the gods themselves, so that's pretty amazing lore drops as well. Either way, we won't be seeing another Soldiers arc for quite a while, as Brennan has officially called a wrap on his first table arc, and we'll be seeing a new group when Critical Role returns next Thursday.
Can't wait!
Ed Greenwood is the legendary creator of the Forgotten Realms, the world D&D has used more than any other in the past several decades, and what many consider to be the prime example of a high fantasy setting. But in a recent interview with Polygon, Greenwood had a shocking bit of advice for his fellow DMs. Basically, please don't do what I did. Greenwood says his Forgotten Realms is wildly overbuilt and a terrible example for other DMs that he created specifically because he knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life exploring it by creating novels and source books, saying, quote, I intend the realms to last my entire life, and I wanted to write novels and short stories and songs and stuff and put them in it. It was a story world first, and I wanted it to be a huge, real world with all that detail, but I am crazy. Do not do this. It is too detailed, it is too sprawling, it took too long. Greenwood says instead to just focus on your adventure for the players at your table, and then build your world as necessary around that, which is very similar to the advice Matt Mercer gave in his recent interview. So now you have 2 of the biggest DMs in the world basically giving you the exact same advice. Start your world building on a very small scale and expand out incrementally as needed to fit your story and the adventure that you're telling at your table. So hopefully that will help the next time you need to start a new campaign. And finally, George R.R. Martin has kept fans of A Song of Ice and Fire waiting for the 6th book for over a decade. And in a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, he's revealed that while he is still working on the book, Winds of Winter, he was also juggling many other projects with HBO and other TV and movie studios at the same time. In fact, Martin spelled out for the first time that unlike fellow fantasy author Robert Jordan, who handed the end of the Wheel of Time novels over to Brandon Sanderson to finish when he passed, Martin would not be doing anything of the sort, saying that he has no contingency plan if he were to pass away before finishing the new novel, saying, quote, if that happens, my work won't be finished. It'll be like The Mystery of Edwin Drood, a reference to Charles Dickens' infamous final unfinished novel. So now that we know that Martin and only Martin holds the fate of Westeros in his hands, We can only hope that he finds the time and the motivation to finish the fantasy epic so many millions of fans have come to know and love, because there won't be any more novels or Game of Thrones stories without him. And that's all the stories we have time for this week. Let us know what your favorite story was down in the comment section, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.